Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, friends. It's always a pleasure to see you here. And tonight, of course, we have a very, very special program. First of all, I would like to thank Stevie and Julie Montague for sponsoring tonight's class in memory of Susie Bajuli, Julie's mother. Thank you very much to the Montague family. Of course, tonight we have a special program because of Yom Yerushalayim. On a personal note, Yom Yerushalayim was very dear to me because when I went to school, my principal was one of the boys who used to learn in the Yeshiva Porat Yosef prior to 1967, a long time before, in the 40s. And he used to tell us that they would see how the Arabs used to use that small little hallway, which was the Kotel Plaza, if you want, the mini version of it. But they would use it for trash. It was a public trash. From time to time, the Jews would clean it and be able to go and pray there. It was not something easy to do. And he said to me, I remember how I saw Arabs, Muslims of the time in Jerusalem, who would, you'll forgive me, but they would use that for bathroom, for public bathroom. And they would make on the stones, and lo alenu, great disgrace for what is called our holiest site today available to us. Rabotai, for me, it was very, very dear. Because of that, he used to tell us these stories, and when they opened Jerusalem, it was a great, great celebration. So celebrating Yom Yerushalayim is very special to me. But tonight, we have the pleasure, the honor, and the privilege of having with us a special person, live from Israel. So if you don't know how to count till 7, 8 plus 7 is 15, which means 3. It's 3:12 a.m. in Israel, and a young woman called Nira Rabinowits is with us live from Israel. I asked my friend Tila Levi to contact her and to ask her if she would be willing to speak with us and to share with us her experience. She lives in a place that she will explain, but in the Arab neighborhoods of Jerusalem. Jerusalem is not completely liberated yet. And she's here to share with us her experience. The way this is going to work, I'm going to ask her some questions, and she will share with us her experience firsthand. She's right there, right now. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce Nira Rabinovitz to our beautiful congregation. Thank you so, so much for joining and being live. You don't look like you were sleeping a few minutes ago. So kol hakavod to you. Thank you for being with us. Berucha haba'ah.
Thank you, Rabbi.
It's a pleasure to meet you. I would like to ask you the first question that is burning in our minds. And that is, first of all, where exactly do you live? Please describe to our audience, and please share with us, your daily life in a Muslim neighborhood in Jerusalem. What is school like for your kids? What is going to shul for you and your husband? What is going to the supermarket? What is a daily life there? So please explain to us. Thank you.
Okay. Shalom, Rabbi, and shalom to all the community, and thank you for hosting me. It is very late at night, but as Tila knows me, for Yerushalayim, we'll do virtually everything, including meeting a beautiful community in the state that wants to hear about Yerushalayim. So that's my motivation, and I'm very happy to do that and to meet you right now. Rabbi, you started asking me about the how before asking me about the why. So I'll start with the how we do that and where do we live. And then I'll be happy to tell you why we do that and why we came and chose to live in that neighborhood in such a place. So we're placed at the old Yemenite Shiloach village, Kfar HaShiloach, which is also called Yemenite village. The old Yemenite village was established in 1882 by Jewish Yemens who heard about the first Aliyah to Israel from Ashkenaz, and they were absolutely sure that right now Beit HaMikdash is going to be built. Jews are coming back to Israel from all over Ashkenaz, and they wanted to take part of this Aliyah. So they came. I'll tell you the whole history story of how they came and what happened to them, but they came to where I'm living right now, which is south of Mount Temple, 5 minutes from the Western Wall. The Arabs call the village where I live right now Silwan. It's an hostile Arab village. It was taken by the Arabs before the State of Israel was built. And in the past 40, 50 years, they took upon most of the territory of this village, despite the fact that it's part of the municipality of Jerusalem, despite the fact that it's so close to the Western Wall. We'll talk about that later. And they actually just took over the whole property, Jewish property that was in this village, and turned it into a backyard of Jerusalem. Most of the population here are Arabs. Most of them are hostile, very, very affected by the Hamas, by the Palestinian Authority. They identify with the Palestinians. They see themselves as Palestinians who live in Israel. And they believe that this place and that Jerusalem and that the entire state of Israel belongs to them. We came to live here 14 years ago out of an ideology that there will not be one part of Jerusalem that will not be in Jewish hands. We see ourselves as continuing the first Aliyah, the second Aliyah, the third Aliyah, and all the Aliyot since then. We see ourselves continuing the Jewish Zionist dream to these days. Actually, we see ourselves fighting the 7th day of the 6 days war, which we just saw this amazing film talking about. So we live in Silwan, which is a hostile Arab village south of Temple Mountain. We live here with another 21 families. The way that we live is not as one closed neighborhood inside the village. We live in different buildings, that in each building all the families are Jewish, but the buildings are separated. There are 5 different buildings spread inside the Arab village, more or less in the same area, but spread from one another. And between us, there are Arab buildings of Arab residents. The way that it works is with full security, sponsored by the State of Israel. We do not live here by ourselves, taking unnecessary risks in order to build Jerusalem. We believe that what we do here is building Yerushalayim, and we do not do it by ourselves. The State of Israel gives us full backup by sponsoring security company that secures our lives every day, 24/7, all year long, all along the years that we live here. At every building, we have 2 guards watching over us. Every time we go in and out of our houses, we go in and out with 2 guards, or with a bulletproof Jeep with a security guard driving with us. I know that you all think, some of you might think that we're a bit crazy and that we take very big risks, and I'll talk about that and about the risks. But I want to tell you, yes, I'm sorry? Did you say something?
No. Keep going. You said we think you're a bit crazy. I was talking about a bit. I don't know if it's a bit or a little bit more.
Okay.
No, please go ahead.
Or very, okay. But as Tila always says, thanks to crazy people, we have the State of Israel. So it's our privilege to be part of these crazy people.
100%. I agree 100%.
So as I said, we do not take risk in order to build Yerushalayim. We believe that Yerushalayim will be built with life. And that is why we allow ourselves to live in this place and to raise children. I didn't introduce myself properly. I just started talking, so I'll just say a few words. I'm Nira Rabinovich. I'm 35 years old. I'm a mother of 7 children, Baruch Hashem, married to Eldad, which is a lawyer who's working on Binyan Yerushalayim for his work. We live here for 14 years. I think I've said that. I'm a social worker. I'm a clinical social worker. I work with children at risk. And we have perfectly normal life, just like everybody else, just except the fact that we chose to live in the middle of an Arab village in order to build Yerushalayim. So I'll talk about the technical side of our lives, and then I'll talk about the non-technical part, the important part of what we're doing here. So technically, as I said, we're dependent with a security company that escort us in and out of our houses and inside the buildings where we live in order to get out of the house. If you want to leave the neighborhood to other places in Jerusalem, I have to call a special guard that this is what he does. He gets all our requests to go in and out. He writes them down. Sometimes I'm dependent in other neighbors that already ordered the escorts, so I need to wait or to join them. It means paying a logistic price on your own private life for something very big that you believe in, and out of a feeling of shlichut for Am Yisrael. It's a state of mind that goes with you all the time, that I'm not here for myself. I chose to be here. I can leave tomorrow morning. We own an apartment in west side of Jerusalem. We can just go and live there any minute that we want. We came here by choice. We stay here by choice every single day. And we do that because we believe that we have the zchut and we have the strength to take that mission upon ourselves. It's not always easy. And the logistic price could be sometimes very, very high, but for us, it's worth it. The logistic price is actually a consequence of the Arabs between we live. They are very hostile. Silwan is a very poor Arab village, which means that people here, many of them don't work, don't have much to lose. They're very frustrated. I think that as a state, we should take responsibility and take care of that, because while they are here, might as well we'll make sure that they have enough things in their lives to appreciate the fact that they're part of this state for now, instead of being so hostile. Because when a population is very poor and have nothing to lose, they are much more exposed to, how do you say, anyone who speaks Hebrew here, how do you say hasata? Anybody? Hasata, when...
Provocation.
I'm sorry, I missed that. What? Again?
Provocation.
They're exposed to all the bad materials. Yes, influence. Great, thank you for that. Well, Diana. They're exposed to all the Hamas and Palestinian Authority attempts to enlarge and strengthen the hatred towards the Jewish people, towards the state of Israel, because of their economical and social state, and because of the fact that they are Muslims, and to begin with, they don't like us. Now, because of that, they're very hostile, and we're exposed to terror attacks on a daily basis. That is what...
If I may interrupt you for 1 second,
Yes.
I'm just curious, did you ever make a friendship with any Arab neighbor, or did you have like a conversation with people who are a little bit more open-minded in having a blend of Jews in their village?
I'll talk about it. I want to a little bit explain and tell you what we're going through living here and why we need all this security. And then I'll tell you about the life here, which is including seeing these people every single day and living together as sort of neighbors. And yes, there are surprises in the relationships that we have here with some of them. On a daily basis, we are exposed to terror attacks. I want to say that after 14 years, in the past few years, the things are getting better and better thanks to having more and more Jewish families living here. At the beginning, we were only 9 families. At a certain point, even 8 families. Just by ourselves in the middle of Silwan, it was much more difficult. Along the years, Baruch Hashem, the neighborhood is going and becoming more and more expanded, and we have more Jewish families, which makes immediately life safer for us. But along the years, and still we're attacked by stones and rocks thrown on the armed vehicles, which takes us in and out. We can't take our own private cars home. We have to live here at a safer place at City of David, and then go in and out. When I say safer place in City of David, most of the time, actually, us ourselves, because being recognized as residents of Silwan, our private car was burned 3 times by Arabs parking, not where I live, parking outside, just because they know it belongs to us and they want to nag us and they want us to feel bad and to be afraid and to go away. So 3 cars were burned in the middle of the night. That is not enough to take us out of here, Baruch Hashem, but it was annoying. But we go in and out with a bulletproof car, which is exposed to rocks, stones, Molotov cocktails, even refrigerators and other heavy things were thrown on the car through the years, and still sometimes. On the houses, sometimes they throw stones and rocks and fireworks and so on, which hit the walls and does absolutely nothing at all to us. But they try to frighten us and they try to get us out of here. They try to tell us it belongs to us, go away, in terror attack ways. And that is why we pay this high logistic price that I was talking about to be fully safe where we live. Except for sponsoring and putting here a security company which escorts us and stay with us here 24/7 all year long. We also have permanent team of Mishmar HaGvul, which is the police army of Israel, which is inside the borders of Israel. It's not IDF, it's called Mishmar HaGvul, which belongs to the police, but it's soldiers that went to serve in the army. They also stay here all the time. We have a permanent team that actually stays with us in the buildings, go through the buildings all the time. And except for them, we have teams that go in and out with their cars, escorting us while driving in and out with a security vehicle and so on. So we do everything we can. We are in great, amazing, and very, very close relationships with the police, with the commanders to the highest levels of the commanders of the police, because the police of Israel also see us, just like the state of Israel itself, as a strategic investment. Because until Jews came to live in neighbors in East Jerusalem, and when I talk about the history of this whole idea of rebuilding Jerusalem in the east part of it, until Jews came to these neighborhoods, they were extremely dangerous. The police would never go into these places until Jewish life in Silwan started 15 years ago. The state of Israel, the police of Israel, did not go into Silwan, period. So many terror attacks on Jaffa Street, on King George Street, at the malls came out of Silwan. Since there are Jewish families here, there was not one terror attack on West Jerusalem coming out of Silwan. Because once you have Jewish life, you have Jewish sovereignty in an area. This is how it works all over the streets of Israel, all over Judea and Samaria, and also in East Jerusalem. The municipality of Jerusalem, all the mayors, most of the mayors that we had along the years support us, come visit us. Everybody sees us as a strategic investment for the safety of the entire Jerusalem and for the full sovereignty and wholeship in Jerusalem. I want to tell you a small story about that. My husband and I doesn't come with families who really, really identify with our ideas, not fully, some of them do. And my husband's uncle was the CEO of the, I think you call it in English, Foreign Ministry. Right. This is how you say it?
Foreign Ministry.
Yeah. So he was a CEO with Tzipi Livni, when Tzipi Livni was the minister. And he met us one Hanukkah, a Hanukkah family, and he told us, listen, you guys, this place, and I'm talking about 10 years ago, or maybe more. He said, this place where you live in Silwan, in East Jerusalem, and back then we were only 2 buildings. I'll talk about that. This building, he put his hand like this and he said, he's stuck right here. We're trying to make the peace process, and this building of yours is right here. And we can't do the border where you live, because We can't put you outside the border because where you live is fully legal and you're part of the municipality of Jerusalem. And we can't keep you in because you're sitting in a territory where the Arabs want to occupy. So he didn't say occupy, but wants to leave, want to take it to themselves. So where you live is stuck. And because of you, we do not manage to put the border of splitting Jerusalem. He wanted to blame us for stopping the peace process, but for us, it was one big yay, mission accomplished. We do not want Jerusalem to be divided. We do not want anyone to imagine that you can cut Jerusalem into parts and give this to this and give to that, and not keeping it fully for the Jewish people to which it belongs. So for us, it was a great sense of victory. And I told you that just to understand how meaningful it is that Jewish people live in these areas and keep them together. And for us, we feel like we're just the shield of Yerushalayim, that no one will ever imagine to be able to split it. I'll talk about the daily life. So as I said, in order to go in and out, we need an escort, which is sometimes complicated. At the rush hours, morning and at noon when the children come home, we have a neighbor that this is what she does. Once in 3 months, she puts everybody on the list. You know exactly what time you leave your house in the morning and when you come home, in order to be able to have your seats at the vehicle. We have 2 vehicles, 2 bulletproof vehicles, which brings us in and out. It's not enough. There's always a family that once a week, twice a week needs to just get along without the seat and go walking with the guards to a safe spot and walk all the way from there. It's difficult, but as I said, we're paying the price knowing that it's for a limited time, it's temporarily. One day it'll be safe here. One day I'm sure of that, I'll be able to just park my car by my home and go in and out safely. It's a matter of time, and for Yerushalayim, which is a netach, we have time, and we'll do everything we can to do it the best way for the meanwhile. So after going out, we live our lives, go to work, children go to school as a Jewish quarter, go to kindergarten as a Jewish quarter. The eldest children here, which is my daughter and another 2 families, children are 14. The neighborhood is quite young. We are the oldest, being 35, 38. The oldest resident is 39. We're young neighborhood, young families. We came here when we were 20, 21, and here to stay. So we have Baruch Hashem koach, and we have our kids that gives us koach, and I'll tell you about them later, how much strength and koach the children that live here gives us, the parents, in order to hang on to this place and not give up on living in it. When we want to come home from all the things we do outside, we need to order the escort. If it's in rush hours, you have your time, you know you have to be there on time, that's your way home. And when coming home, you could have imagined that living in an Arab village, it must be saying that you live in your own shell, being frightened all day long, just waiting for the next morning to come to leave your house, very frightening. And that is not at all what's going on here. We have full Jewish, amazing community life right here where we live. The fund, the Amutah that organizes it, that doing all this mission is called Ateret Kohanim, and they do everything they can for our welfare here in our buildings, in our houses. We live in a neighborhood. We have in one building a library where I live. In another building, we have a small country club for the kids with swings and slides, and even chickens and rabbits to play with, and a small a soccer, football, I don't know how you call it in English, soccer or football, but the boys can play there. And at another building, we have a gymboree room, we have a kollel of students who come from outside every day for morning, for evening, and for soccer field, thank you. We have students come to learn Torah at the kollel at Beit Yonatan. 3 times a day, this kollel is occupied by tzaddikim, people who come not from our community, from other communities, to study here. I want to say in one word, that's our secret. The fact that we have people studying Torah all the years long. It's the craziest times we had here. We had people coming b'mesirut nefesh to learn Torah right here in the middle of Silwan. I believe that this is our ananei kavod that has kept us safe, and nobody has ever been, Baruch Hashem, injured or harmed by living here. I believe that this is the power of Torah in Jewish life, in Zionist life, in the middle of Yerushalayim, in Eretz Israel, in our generation of the Geula. This is how I believe. So we have the kollel and we have a Jiburi room. And at every building, we have trampolines for the kids to play at and to run along. And we do everything we can for the kids to feel like they have places to go to and they meet their friends. My kids, it's hard to keep them home in the afternoon without friends. I really need to work on it sometimes if I want to have just a quiet afternoon at home, because our community is very much together. This is what gives us strength. So we are very, very close and very good friends. Our kids were born here. Most of the kids were born here. They feel like they are brothers and sisters of one another. People laugh at us that the residents of the Yemenite village, when the kids meet each other at the Jewish quarter, they hug each other as if they saw a family member which they didn't see for 10 years because they are so close and such good friends that it's so much fun to see someone from Yemenite village at other places. We go together, the smachot, we go together, the hardships. Just this week we had an Erev Nashim, an evening for all the women. We do it once a month. Because of the coronavirus, we couldn't have done it for almost 3 months. We were sitting together at the old Yemenite synagogue, which I'll tell you about. It's a history part, if you still have time. We sat together until 2 o'clock at night, just talking about the coronavirus and how it's been and what we've been through at the village through this time and all the challenges. And I felt like I was sitting with my sisters, literally with my sisters. And it's an amazing thing.
Sorry, I just said we're running out of time, and this is
okay.
truly incredible, your story. But I want to ask you just historically, and you correct me if I'm wrong, because we're celebrating Baruch Hashem Yom Yerushalayim. As we see, Yom Yerushalayim was just the beginning of celebrating more Yom Yerushalayim to come. B'ezrat Hashem, thanks to you guys. I just have, I was always taught that in Yerushalayim was always a Jewish presence. Even after Churbat Beit Sheni, even after the destruction of the Second Temple, there was always a group of Jews, which means that for the past almost 2,000 years, was always Jews in Yerushalayim. I'm sure since you live there and this is your life, and kol hakavod to you and your families, around there, can you just talk the historic part of that? Can you confirm that what I'm saying is true and just say a word on that?
So what you're saying is true. Usually when you talk about Jewish life in Jerusalem, you talk about inside the walls of the old city. Over there has always been Jewish life. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Do you hear me? Oh, okay.
Yes.
There was always Jewish life. There was always Jewish life inside the walls of the old city. That is, except one period of time when they went to Tzfat, after I think one riot or part of the riots. There was one period of time where Jews did not live in Yerushalayim. They all went to Tzfat. And that is the time when the big, huge earthquake that attacked Israel happened, and many people died. And I just heard from Mati Dan, the head of Ateret Kohanim, which established all the Jewish life in East Jerusalem. He just told us last week that he saw one of the Mefarshim saying that the huge earthquake happened because of Kinat Yerushalayim, the envy of Yerushalayim, because Jews did not live in Yerushalayim in that time, so the earth had quaked. It could not have, it can't be. It's just not normal. It's not natural that there won't be Jewish life in Jerusalem till there was an earthquake. And after that, Jews came back to live in Jerusalem, in Yerushalayim. So except that period of time, there were always Jewish life in Jerusalem, but not in all parts of Jerusalem. And now I'll take just a few minutes to tell you about the history of where I live, because it's very important for me for people to understand that it's not that we just chose a spot on the globus and came just where it is because there are Arabs here. It's not because of the Arabs that we're here. It's because it's Yerushalayim and always has been. So our story begins at 1882. A group of Jews in Yemen came. The rumor has came all the way to them to Yemen that there's Jewish life going back to Israel from Ashkenaz. We're talking about the time of the first Aliyah. The year was Tafresh Membet in Hebrew. 1882 was Tafresh Membet. And if you switch the letters, it's Betamar. They knew from Shir HaShirim that Ele Betamar will be the time of the Geulah. They were absolutely sure that this is a sign that Ele Betamar now is the year of the Geulah, and we must go to Israel and to Jerusalem. The Yemens were absolutely sure and determined that their Jewish life in Israel will be in the holy city and nowhere else. They came through the deserts, horrible stories of losing people on the way, children, women, adults, lots of money, everything that they needed to do. They came walking from Yemen to Jerusalem. They came to Jerusalem, wanted to live inside the old city where the Yeshuv HaYashan, the old Yeshuv of Yerushalayim, existed. And some people say that they were not allowed in because of their face color and they were not, didn't really match and they weren't really sure that they're Jews. Some people say that it was just honestly too crowded inside the walls. There was not enough room for more people. It could have been even dangerous because it was too crowded and they were left outside the walls. They did not give up on the dream to be part of Yerushalayim, to live in Yerushalayim, and they just went to live in caves on the mountain where I'm living right now, across the old city. We see from my window the walls of the old city. They did not give up on the dream. They lived in caves through the winter until a Chabadnik Jew from the state called Rav Ze'ev Dov Frumkin saw the conditions in which they live, went to the state, raised money, and brought from the British mandate with full money a land for the Yemens to live in across the old city. He bought the money with full land, with full money, and he bought the land with full money, and he built them their houses, and there was a beautiful Yemenite Jewish neighborhood here where I am living right now. They had 2 synagogues, they had a mikveh, they were working, they were studying Torah, they had a cheder with a mori, that we have actual real pictures from the Jewish Yemenite life here where I am talking to you from right now. They lived here their lives until the riot of Tafresh Tzadik Chet, 1928, if I'm not wrong. The riot had begun. First, they tried to protect themselves until it was too late, and the British officers told them that they must leave their houses, and when the Arabs will come down, they'll be able to come back to their homes. Unfortunately, after these riots, there was nothing to come back to. The village was destroyed, the synagogues were destroyed, burnt. One Sefer Torah has survived because they took it with them when they went away. I'll tell you about this Sefer Torah. Just a hint, we're using it right now every Shabbat. But it has survived from these riots, and the family took it with them to Rosh Ha'ain, which is a city in Israel, and the Yemenite and the Jewish life here was stopped. As you all know, in 1948, Baruch Hashem, the state of Israel was established. We've won the Milchemet HaAtzmaut, but the east part of Yerushalayim was still part of Jordan, was still part of a Jordanian, in the Jordanian authority. Only in 1967, Baruch Hashem, 43 years ago, Baruch Hashem, we were back to East Jerusalem, back to the Western Wall, but under political pressures, not all the parts of East Jerusalem were settled by Jews. Many parts of East Jerusalem were left with no one to live in, and the Arabs just started building their houses. Most of the buildings around me, which there are many of them right now, did not exist before 1967. It's quite absurd that after 6 Days War, the Arabs came to these neighborhoods outside the old city in East Jerusalem, but this is what has happened. Unfortunately, these areas were neglected by the State of Israel along the years until Ateret Kohanim, the fund I was talking about, arose and started buying houses from Arabs, first inside the Muslim quarter and later in other neighborhoods outside the Muslim quarter in East Jerusalem. Where I live, actually, the work that they do is being done in two ways. One is in the legal way, because most of the houses of the Arabs here are not legal. They're sitting on Jewish land, which we have proofs that it is Jewish land, because Baruch Hashem, this Rabbi Ze'ev Dov Frumkin was very, very mesudar, very organized, and he kept all the kushans, all the legal proof that he's bought these lands with full money. So we have proof, Baruch Hashem, and many of the houses here are now under a legal process that the Arabs that are sitting in houses that does not belong to them, who never paid for, will be evacuated. It has happened already twice, and it's going to happen again. The other way that Ateret Kohanim is working is by paying money. Ateret Kohanim always prefers to pay money to an Arab just to leave his house. It's lots of money, but it's worth it because it's easier.
I have to ask you one last question. If you could answer in 1 or 2 minutes, and then I have to cut. But the question is, you know, in America, a lot of youth is becoming very liberal and very, unfortunately, they're losing that Zionist, heart that that their parents, their grandparents have. And maybe because of the work of the universities, whatever it is, I want you to give them a 60-second message.
Well, I think that I don't know about 60 seconds, but I'll do my best. In our generation, we're all exposed to many spiritual acceptions of being citizens of the world, of no identity, no nationality. We're all exposed to these spirits. And I think that combined with the BDS work could go even into us and expose us to believe that maybe our Jewish identity is really not important. And maybe our Jewish identity is meaningless in our generation, and so on. And I want to tell everybody, first, I'm not judgmental. I have the privilege, I had the privilege to be born in Israel. I never had the opportunity to even think about it because that's my fact of life, Baruch Hashem. And I am not judgmental to people who need to come from abroad. My father came from England and he could not have come. So I'm not judgmental to people who don't come. But I do want to say something to all Jews everywhere. And I think that the coronavirus has showed it to us more than everything. Eventually, each country, each place has from God the place that is natural for us as a people and for every people to live in. And in the coronavirus, we saw that although we're all citizens of the world, every country needs eventually to take care of itself, shut its borders, and be safe. And I take from that a message. Before and after everything, we're Jews. And before and after everything, we will always be Jews. Even more than we understand that, the nations around us understand that. And that is why they try to boycott us and to be against us, because they understand that being a Jew is a fact for life and for the netzach and for long term. And I want to tell everybody from here, from Yerushalayim, that your Jewish soul is something that you will always feel inside of you. Unfortunately, along the years, we saw that only when it's very, very hard and when we are very, very attacked, we are reminded that we have only one really safe place to live here. We saw it before the Holocaust, that there were many Jews that did not believe in the Zionist idea and did not believe in even having to put your Judaism at the front of the stage. And look what happened. Sometimes the reality proves us more than everything that there is only one safe place for us to live here. And I'm saying, come to Israel. Just come to see. I did not hear of one Jew who came to Israel and didn't feel something, because our souls belongs to this land, to this Adamah. And only here our souls feel complete. Only here we feel at home. And really just believe in what we are, believe in the people that we are, learn history, come and feel, come and see. You will just fall in love. It just can't be otherwise.
Right. Nira Rabinovits, I really, really, really want to thank you for the bottom of my heart and on the name of the whole community. Number one, for everything you do, for everything you believe, for the chizuk you give us, and especially for waking up at 2:30 a.m. to be here with us at 3 a.m. It's 3:51 a.m. in Israel. I have no words to thank you. It was a pleasure meeting you. You could go to sleep if you want. I'm just going to use the next 5-6 minutes to conclude with your permission. But if you really want to go,
I'll be happy to hear that.
Please, if you want to go to sleep, please go to sleep. If you want to stay, please stay. No problem. I just want to say a word on Yerushalayim, based on the Chachamim. There's a pasuk in Tehillim that says the following: Yerushalayim habenuya ke'ir shechubera la yachdav. Yerushalayim habenuya, the city that benuya, when it's built, ke'ir shechubera la yachdav, like the city that is joined together. What does that mean? The city that is joined together. So the Yerushalmi, the Talmud Yerushalmi says the following. And this is a fact that I personally see, and I'm sure all of you do. Says the Yerushalmi, it's the city that makes all the Jewish people chaverim. It's the city that makes the people together, friends, that connects and unites all the Jews. Think for a second, Rabotai. Think about the following. What city in Israel do you have no denomination whatsoever? So if I tell you Tel Aviv, you know more or less, what Tel Aviv is about. If I tell you Bnei Brak, you know more or less what it is about. You're going to find always exceptions to rules, etc. But when you say Yerushalayim, is it religious or not? Well, there's everything. Is it Zionist or not? There's everything. Is it Chiloni completely? Some neighborhoods. Is it super Haredi? Some neighborhoods. Is it Dati? Some neighborhoods. Yerushalayim has something special. And this is the pasuk that David HaMelech is saying, Ke'ir shechubera layachdav, the ir that is mechaber, that is making people chaverim, that is taking people becoming friends, which come from the word lechaber, to connect, to glue together. And I was thinking to myself, what is the difference, between when you celebrate Yom HaAtzmaut and you celebrate Yom Yerushalayim, for example? It's just, another celebration, another miracle, another something. I believe that something extremely powerful happened when the liberation of Yerushalayim was. And it is based on what I just said now. Rabotai, for 2,000 years, the Jews were separated. Physically. You had the Ashkenazim, the Sephardim, the Litaim, the Hasidim, these ones, those ones. There was no way, even practically, to have people connect to one another. The communities were very insular, very into themselves, no connection with other communities. Very rarely did you have people connect physically, going and traveling from place to place. It was just very difficult. There was one thing, though, before the invention of the internet, 2,000 years ago, we already had a connection that was virtual. And that virtual connection was Yerushalayim. In every table, when it would be Pesach, you would sing Leshana Haba B'Yerushalayim Habenuya. In every place, in every occasion, in every wedding, you would sing Imeshkachach Yerushalayim. The connection was Yerushalayim, not physically though, which means you didn't have a connection with other people. If you were born in France, then you would probably live and die in France. And if you were born in Germany, that's what would happen to you. And if you were born in Algeria, then that's what it would be. And if you were born in Egypt, then that's what it would be, etc. and people built their own communities, but there was no physical connection between people. Only the virtual connection of belief, of hope with Yerushalayim. We all prayed to the direction of Yerushalayim until this very day. You pray the east when you're in the west. You pray to the south when you're in the north. Because everybody, the virtual connection was Yerushalayim. Because it's Ir Shechubera Yahdav. But for 2,000 years, there wasn't Ir Shechubera Yahdav physically. A city that glues people. That when you walk into Yerushalayim, there's something special that happens, like Nira said. When you walk into Yerushalayim, there's a special feeling that you have. And sometimes I try to explain to people, how does it feel to be in Yerushalayim? There's no word that could describe it because it's not something physical. It's not only about the smell of the city. It's not only about the feeling of the people. It's not about the Kiddusha. It's everything together. It's called Ir Shechubera Yahdav. It's a city that connects you with Hashem. It's a little piece of heaven on earth. It's a connection between people. But when 1967 happened, maybe that was the miracle. The miracle of physical reconnection. Of all these virtual 1950 years of virtual connection, of chibur between the people that was never physical, that never materialized. And when people were able to go inside that city, when you go inside that city and you connect with others in this Ir Shechubera Yahdav, this city that connects the people together, that is probably, in a sense, one angle of what we celebrate. And it's true that we could celebrate, of course, the Medinat Israel 1948, absolutely. But there was something special, something extra. It's not what I call a cherry on the cake. It was a cake by itself. That chibur that could happen. When you walk in the street of Yerushalayim, you feel it. There's something special about it. And that is the connection that you have with other people. You don't know where they come from. You don't know who they are. You go to the Kotel HaMa'aravi, for example. You just, don't make a difference. I think that more than ever, we are feeling and we're experiencing this now that we are living the special times that we are. Because the coronavirus situation has done just that. Maybe not as professionally as Yerushalayim did. But it did do it in a different way. Rabotai, since the story of the virus, I think we're physically separated, but mentally and emotionally much more connected. You're going to see, for example, all the drives that happened against the odds when you would think that the Klal Yisrael is broke, and maybe some people are, and it's going on. But the biggest collect of Hatzalah, for example, happened this year. $15 million in a period of 24 hours. Ashrei Israel, this is crazy. There's a chibur happening. There's something that is going on. Is that you connect with people. The other day, my wife's uncle celebrated his 70-year birthday. He had literally cousins from all over the world on the Zoom celebration. Thing that wouldn't have happened before. We have opened our shul already 2 weeks, and we had people calling us and trying to join because they have something. This morning we celebrated the birth of a baby girl, the naming, and it was somebody from a totally different community. Rabotai, this person would have never ended by us if it wasn't because of this situation. This has united people. Why? Because we're the only minyan available right now. And therefore they come, and you know what? You forget about the differences all of a sudden. So you know what? It's fine. And I joked with the guy's an Ashkenaz guy. And I'm like, hey, we're going to sing to you in Sephardic this morning. And he was fine with it. Why? Because we're connecting. Because our real essence is connection. Chibur, chaverim. I feel that this is exactly what Yerushalayim is about. Yerushalayim brought a connection that was engraved in our hearts for 2,000 years of separation, and has brought it specifically in Yerushalayim. It doesn't say this about Eretz Israel. It says this about Yerushalayim. I'll just end with the following in the name Yerushalayim. The Midrash in Bereshit Rabbah Perek Nun Vav. The Midrash tells us, Abraham Kirao Yir'eh. Abraham, when he was on Yerushalayim, before it was called Yerushalayim, he called it Yir'eh. We'll see, shall be seen. Shneimar, as it says in the Pasuk, Vayikra Abraham Shem HaMakom Hahu Hashem Yir'eh. Abraham called that place Hashem Yir'eh. Hashem will see. Ki be'ar Hashem Yir'eh. Says the Midrash, but Shem Karaoto Shalem. Shem called that place Shalem, complete. Sheneemar, as the Pasuk says, Malki Tzedek, Melech Shalem. Malki Tzedek is Shem, the king of Shalem. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, says the Midrash, God says, Hareni Kore Oto Yerushalayim. I'm going to call this place Yerushalayim, which is, you already know, a combination of both worlds, of both words. But it's both worlds, you're going to see. Kemo shekaru shenehem Yir'eh Shalem Yerushalayim. The life of Abraham is giving his life to others. The life of Shem, the son of Noach, is keeping his life for himself. There are sometimes moments that you could open yourself to others, and there are moments that you have to close yourself into yourself. There are people who open themselves to the world, like Abraham Avinu and Sarah Imenu. Their job was to open themselves to the world. And you have Shem, he had a yeshiva. Everybody learned in that yeshiva. Yaakov, Abraham, everyone learned there. When Rivka had a problem, she went to consult Shem in the yeshiva. It's an insular place. You're going to see some people, they study Torah for themselves. Some people, they have a little bit of Torah, just a little bit, they're already teaching it. So, the best idea, by the way. But you need a little bit of Shem in order to become Abraham. But here you're talking about two different worlds. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I love it. I don't want a place with one hashkafa only. I want a place with two complete opposites. Abraham and Shem, completely different. And Hashem says, that's what Yerushalayim is about. When I have Abraham Avinu outlook into the world, and I have a Shem's looking into the world, I'm calling this place Yerushalayim to respect both. Because this is going to be the place where diversity is being honored and respected. And that's how you create a real chibur. When you respect somebody else. Not because you agree with the other person, or not because you want to become the other person. But when you respect the other person. Abraham is Abraham, he's respected for that. Shem is Shem, he's respected for that. And God says, you know what, I respect both. Let's make a city where the chibur happens. And that's what we have to learn from here, Rabotai. Right now, we are separated yet very connected. Very soon, Be'ezrat Hashem, each Bete Knesset, they're going to go back. People are going to go back to the normal life, Be'ezrat Hashem, with safety and refuah and protection from heaven. But we have to ask ourselves a question. Did we learn something? What have we learned? How am I going to put this into play? I think the virus, our situation, and Yom Yerushalayim is a bomb. We have to think about it. This is the connector, a way to connect ourselves to others, even if we disagree, even if we don't have the same way of thinking. That's what Yerushalayim was about. You go to Israel, in general, you see a crazy amount of different cultures. But you go in Yerushalayim, I think Yerushalayim is like that mini world, the mini UN. You have all the different cultures together in there. And yet it works. Beshalom. Yerushalayim milashon shalom. I want to bless everyone. Be'ezrat Hashem. We should learn how to do that. How to truly appreciate someone else's perspective, how to respect it, how to learn from it. And it doesn't mean because I disagree that I'm an enemy. And it doesn't mean because you disagree that you're not my friend. Quite the opposite. That's what Yerushalayim is about. And we have to learn from that. And I think this is one of the big celebrations that we're doing now. I want to again reiterate our thanks to Nira Rabinowits and for the organizers. And thank again the Montague family for sponsoring this. I wish everyone an excellent evening. Thank you very much for tuning in. Be well, Rabotai. Yom Yerushalayim Sameach. We'll see you, Be'ezrat Hashem, tomorrow morning in the Zoom at 7:05 a.m. Thank you very much. Be well and Shabbat Shalom. Thank you again, Nira Rabinovich.